Planning Minister explains grant delay. Vice Ministers sworn in. And PNG TA wants review of TFF policy.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Friday's news. After several weeks of public discussions on the proposed European Union grant funding to the Pacific region, National Planning Minister Richard Maru has explained the delay in the delivery of this 840 million kina grant. According to Minister Maru, negotiations and process that until now had denied him from responding to claims made by ECPIC Governor Alan Bird, claims that the Planning Department and Minister Maru had intentionally delayed the drawdown of the proposed grant funding.
In recent weeks, ECPIC Governor Alan Bird has been vocal about the delay in the release and drawdown of EU grant funding valued at around 340 million kina for the ECPIC region. On FM 100 Talkback this week, Governor Bird was disappointed at the manner in which the Ministry and Department of National Planning were perceived to have been delaying the drawdown of this funding, the majority of which was to have been for cocoa and vanilla farmers in the Pacific region.
We never ever focus on the smallholder farmer, the rural farmers. Now, ECPIC and West CPIC has about 20,000 vanilla farmers. We have about 10,000 fishermen and women on the Pacific River and on the coast. And we have 138,000 registered cocoa farmers. This program is going to support all those little farmers. This is the big difference. And the thing I find strange and where a lot of the policymakers misunderstand is that this land law legally man merilo place. And we've never tried this anywhere in PNG. We've never tried this anywhere in the South Pacific. So it's an absolutely amazing opportunity to try something with small producers.
Among his concerns, that if PNG would not complete negotiations with the EU to draw down funding by June the 30th, PNG would miss out altogether on this opportunity to fund the critical agriculture sector.
ECPIC provincial government established over 300 cocoa nurseries in readiness for the EU program. That's with these 300 plus budwood nurseries, we can produce 6 million clones annually. The entire country only has a capacity of 1 million clones a year. ECPIC has the ability to produce 6 million clones right now as I sit and talk to you.
This afternoon, National Planning Minister Richard Maru called a media conference in regards to the EU grant funding, basically to comment on the reasons behind the delay in the drawdown of the funding to ECPIC province. According to Minister Maru, he had been bound by the protocol to not discuss issues relating to the grant funding, as negotiations had not been completed until this week. Negotiations which included getting the final approval from the European Commissioner for International Cooperation and Development, Neven Mimica, in Brussels.
So we have been negotiating with the EU, initially through the office of the ambassador here in Port Moresby, and when we didn't have any success, I was advised rightly by our ambassador in Brussels to go and meet the Minister for Development Cooperation of the EU, who is my counterpart in EU, in Samoa. When we had the EU HCP meetings in Samoa, I went personally there to Samoa and met him and appealed to him that the PNG government wanted a change in the scope of the proposed EU rural intervention program.
Whilst the go-ahead given by the EU now brings the drawdown of the funding one step closer, the grant funding agreement has been amended slightly with two key changes made, which Minister Maru explained.
The changes we wanted was, firstly, we wanted the 4 Momase provinces to be included in the areas that will benefit from the 340 million that the EU was offering under this project. The second change we wanted in the scope was that we wanted rural roads, economic roads or commodity roads or economic roads to be included in the scope of the project, because our policy says 50% of all funding must be for infrastructure.
Given the completion of negotiations and approval from the EU, the agreement will now be signed next week in Port Moresby, well before the deadline of June the 30th. Following this, the Department of National Planning will be working with the European Union and the Food and Agriculture Organization, the implementing agency, to carry out the scoping and design to determine actions and activities. The Minister also clarifying that the role of provincial government actors would also be established during this phase, an activity that could take up to 12 months.
The detailed scoping will be led by my department. We'll have the COCO board, we'll have the SPICE board, and it's the public servants and the promises, governors and administrations will sit down and work on the scoping. The political head doesn't get down to that level. We negotiate and we sign it by level, and then it's up to the secretary and his team to work with all the other stakeholders and the governors and the provinces to work on the scoping of the project.
Mary Batulo, National EMTV News.
8 members of Parliament signed instruments to be recognised as Vice Ministers and Parliament Secretaries today. Governor-General Grand Chief Sir Bob Dadai officiated at the swearing-in ceremony at the Government House this morning.
The members of Parliament sworn in as Vice Ministers are Member for Daulo Open, Pogi Ogate, Member for Tewai Siasi, Dr. Kobe Bomareo, Member for Kagwa Erave, Wesley Raminai, Member for Tambul Nebile, Win Daki, Member for Usino Bundi, Jimmy Ugoro, Member for Sohe Open, Henry Amuli, Member for Nuku Open, Joe Sungi, and Member for Komo Magarima, Manase Makiba. Prime Minister James Marape attended the swearing-in ceremony at Government House this morning and said the Vice Ministers sworn in today are an experienced group of leaders who are qualified to be ministers.
At any time they can be lifted to be Ministers of State, they all qualified, but because of the combination of formula that was used, most of them were displaced and they can't all be ministers, as we fill in 32 ministers in the early appointments.
He said the Vice Ministers sworn in today will be functional Vice Ministers.
Getting titled as Vice Ministers and running around doing nothing as was in the past, we will assign respective functions and agencies of state to the Vice Ministers.
Prime Minister Marape will make a formal announcement of the Parliamentary Secretaries' respective roles and duties come Monday next week. This will include the 3 Vice Ministers for Agriculture who will be responsible for coffee, oil palm, copra and cocoa, as well as livestock.
We just want to break this sector down to ensure that it is given correct support and our people out there in rural Papua New Guinea get involved in the agricultural space, as well as tourism space, fishery space, and many economic activities.
Annette Kora, National EMTV News.
Australia's Foreign Affairs Minister and Minister for Women, Maurice Payne, visited the Pacific Adventist University yesterday. The minister had an informal discussion with 40 women students and alumni from PAU and other universities on their role in promoting gender equality in the country. The student leaders shared their challenges as well. Through the PNG Australia partnership, Minister Payne said supporting education in PNG is a long-term focus for the Australian government. Through this partnership, the Australian government has supported PAU in recent years with incentive fund infrastructure and scholarships for midwives, nurses and teachers.
No matter what you want to do, taking the road of education in that process will make a difference in your future life. Make a difference to you as a person, it'll make a difference to your family one day, and it'll make a difference to the future of this nation and the nations from which you come.
A new board for the Nawaeb Health Authority was sworn in yesterday in Lae. The Provincial Health Board will be responsible in making decisions on issues concerning the delivery of health services in all the 9 districts of Nawaeb and will manage and control the use of funds. The board is comprised of 9 members representing the provincial government, churches, community, business and women.
Of governors.
These are the 9 members of the new Provincial Health Authority Board for Nawaeb Province. The board replaces the Engel Board and the Provincial Health Board, which their functions ceased during the initial swearing-in of the members yesterday.
The best healthcare professionals.
The board chairman David Wissing said, The board will make sure that the people of the 9 districts in Nawaeb must have access to basic health services.
I know where I want to focus our resources. 3 Kina 50, every corner of Nawaeb must have access to TB drugs. All right? We have a healthy population. We can help with what the Prime Minister said last week. It's about taking back PNG, taking back Nawaeb. We need a healthy population to do that. So it's up to us to make sure that everybody has access to these services. It's a must.
The Provincial Health Authority Act was passed in 2007. Currently, there are 14 provinces with the Health Authority Office. Nawaeb is now the 15th province with Health Authority in PNG. The Health Secretary, Pasco Cases, said the Provincial Health Authority Board is now in full control of the decentralization of health powers.
The signing of the PHA partnership agreement means that the governor, as the political head of the province, is now transferring his responsibilities over health now to the Provincial Health Authority Board. That's what it means. At the same time, at the national level, the Minister for Health is responsible for Angau Hospital. Now that Minister for Health is now transferred that responsibility to the Provincial Health Authority. So the board, you have now a big responsibility. 2 bodies are now created into one Nawaeb Provincial Health Authority.
This mammoth task, we will leave it to you, and we know at the back of our mind, we know that you are experienced people. We know that you can do something for the people to save the people's life, that you can make a good decision on behalf of the national government for our people.
Declaring the board members of the new Provincial Health Authority for Nawaeb yesterday, Health Minister Elias Kapavore said the health functional grants would go directly to the provincial health authorities rather than to the districts. This will make it efficient for single system for accountability and reporting. Minister Kapavore said with the old board, there used to be a lot of processes involved for health services to reach people, especially in remote areas. He said this won't be the same case with the new Provincial Health Authority Board.
Somebody has to sign a get that letter to CEO Sanjitov, make the response. When the response is done, it takes 2 weeks to make that happen. And when the decision is actually made, it's already 1 month or 2 months later, and people have already died. Cut down on all these processes and do something for the people of our nation.
Julie Badui, Owa, National EMTV News, Ley.
National EMTV News continues with more after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. The PNG Teachers Association is calling on the new government to immediately review the tuition fee-free policy. General Secretary Ugwalubu Moana told the media that while they acknowledge the government's seriousness in funding the cost of education in the country, the TFF policy is not achieving its full capacity. This came in response to the 25 million kina payment of the second quarter TFF funds.
Due to the tuition fee-free policy, every year there is an increase in student enrollment in schools. But the sad truth is that every year, the quarterly funds to schools for TFF is decreasing. While highlighting the less money high enrollment issue, PNGTA General Secretary Ugwalubu Moana is calling on the Marape government to take audit of the TFF administration 5 years back and review the policy.
That the new Minister for Education and the new government must put attention to immediate review of the administration of TFF. I am calling on the new Minister and the new government to immediately audit the standards and quality assurance within the education system.
With schools not receiving the full funds for a quarter, it has taken a toll on schools. There are constant delays in the delivery of teaching and learning materials, outstanding water bills and other administrative matters that schools have to deal with. All this has led to the quality and standard of education decreasing, leaving the future of public education in question. The fuming General Secretary is now demanding a public explanation from the Education Department.
Education Department must come out and explain why 15% of the infrastructure funds have been parked at the trust account of the Education Department.
According to Moana, 125 million kina is the full TFF fund that is supposed to be paid at the beginning of every term and not partial payments towards the end of the term. This week, the Education Department announced a 25 million kina payment for the second quarter with outstanding to be paid once funding is available. Moana says the association has already received reports of schools closing, putting the spotlight on Education Department to clarify disbursements of funds since 2017.
We learned that 90.3 million kina was not paid to schools in 2017. And 2018, less money coming. 2019, less money coming.
Initially, when the TFF policy was implemented, parents were told not to pay any fees and schools told not to charge any. So it is up to the government to deliver upon the policy. The PNG Teachers Association said the government should reconsider the policy and allow shared responsibility where parents and guardians can pay a portion of the school fees. Patricia Kiamo, National EMTV News.
A student from a remote school in Nawaeb district in Nawaeb province has come out the winner of this year's World No Tobacco Day competition. The student Idu Samati and her father were flown to Port Moresby to receive her award today. She says the competition has motivated her to do more awareness on tobacco.
The presentation ceremony today saw schools in the nation's capital who took part in the competition all in attendance. The competition was an initiative of the National Department of Health and the World Health Organization to address issues of tobacco and lung health in schools. As part of the competition, students from primary schools in the country were tasked to submit posters, poems and illustrations on the theme "Don't Let Tobacco Take Your Breath Away."
And I also want to get a message to the children and to make them know where the tobacco is very harmful.
Idu Samati is a 16-year-old grade 8 student attending Bosa Primary School in Nawaeb District, Nawaeb Province. She was chosen the winner of the competition for a poem she wrote about tobacco and lung health. She was flown into Port Moresby yesterday by the World Health Organization to receive her award. For the 16-year-old, what motivated her to write the poem was the continuous abuse of tobacco by young people in her community. She said this achievement has motivated her to do more awareness on tobacco and lung health in her local community.
But I think that many people in Papua New Guinea, province, district as well are taking in this tobacco. I think that it is a serious case that it affects many people and some were killed by tobacco.
The presentation ceremony today also saw the launching of the 2016 Global Youth Tobacco Survey. According to the WHO country representative, the survey revealed that over 1/3 of students in the country are tobacco users, most of them boys.
And the country have passed tobacco legislation some years ago, and I think the national government tried to develop regulation how to implement the tobacco law. I think the government in the final stage will ensure this tobacco regulation to be properly implemented.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
An Australian seasonal worker company, PNG Labour, owned and operated by an Angan businessman Johnson Camden, has decided to recruit seasonal workers from Papua New Guinea under the Seasonal Workers Program. Camden says PNG Labour, which operates throughout Australia, is aiming to set standards within the Australian agricultural industry. Camden will take his first 6 seasonal workers to New South Wales on Tuesday next week. Godwin Eki reports.
This is the first time PNG Labour will engage Papua New Guineans under its seasonal workers program in Australia. Owner and operator Johnson Kendon says after hearing the cry of ordinary Papua New Guineans needing to find work or employment, it has led him to come home to PNG and recruit Papua New Guineans.
So PNG Labour is based all around Australia, from all the way from Victoria to Melbourne to Queensland to pretty much the whole of Australia. So when they get down there, they'll be based in New South Wales, the initial 6. They'll be working for 9 months underneath the seasonal worker program.
Kendon says he is confident the 6 selected to work in the farms in New South Wales will represent the country, their families and PNG Labour well. He says PNG Labour has been operating in Australia for a long time and upholds very high standards of work ethics and values.
We'd like to start with a small group because it's both a small group so it's a little bit easier to maintain and understand because it's 2 different cultures.
The benefits that comes with the opportunity to work in the farms in Australia will benefit these workers greatly.
The 6 people that we're taking down, the short time that I've got to know them, they're hard workers. I believe they'll represent the country well when they're overseas. It'll help them in their lifestyle with their families, in order to pay for the kids' school fees, the spouses. They'll have a lot more money to bring back to the economy.
For most of these workers, this will be their first time to go to Australia and work in the farms.
I'm very happy because I've been dreaming about it.
I thank the PNG Labour, I think, for getting us to go down and work.
I feel excited to travel in Australia.
They are expected to leave for Australia next Tuesday. Godwin Eki, National EMTV News.
You're at National EMTV News. When we come back, our week in review and another deadly Ebola outbreak in Central Africa. Stay tuned for the details. Welcome back to the news. Landowner company Transworld Limited has announced a net profit of 17.6 million kina in its 2018 financial year. Managing Director Larry Andagali says under the country's struggling economy, the company thrived despite poor government infrastructure and business environment. Andagali says with the new government in place, he hopes resource laws will be changed for landowners to benefit and support grow the economy.
The board of directors of Transworld Limited gathered yesterday to announce a net profit of 17.6 million kina. Profit before tax for 2018 was 25.6 million kina and 8 million kina in income tax. Andagali says local businesses must be supported to help build the economy.
We have benefits that can basically turn this country around. We have it. We don't have to look far and wide. We just have it. What we need to do is we need to manage what we have properly. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be transparency.
June 2019 commemorates 10 years of operation as one of the biggest trucking companies in the country. And with the new Marape Stephen government in place, Chairman Mark Sakai is appealing to the state to fix roads and enable PNG businesses to grow and expand.
And as a business, we've been using the highway for the last 10 years. And the cost of using the highway has been so much. The impact on our businesses in terms of wear and tear on parts and the fuel.
TWL's operation are more towards the oil and gas sector. A director on the company's board believes if the state can review mining and petroleum laws, social and economic impact will be tangible.
So oil and gas regulated under Oil and Gas Act. So there's certain laws which government is going to amend increasing the benefit to the landowners. Then that would increase the benefit of the business spin-off and other areas.
The company is now planning to extend to other provinces, and with many other oil and gas projects eyed by the state, Chairman Andagali wants necessary reforms to take place while cutting out politics. TWL will be hosting its annual general meeting on the 18th of July 2019 for a 20% dividend to its shareholders.
But in TWL, we speak one commercial language, and that is to promote transparency and accountability in our operations, maximize profit to our shareholders.
Jack Lepave Jr., National EMTV News.
This week, more ministerial handovers as the Nawaeb Stephen government working towards fine-tuning the new cabinet. All their functions are now geared towards a 10-year vision to reap more benefits from resources and propel Papua New Guinea to a status that is comparable with world international standards. Today, vice ministers were sworn in. The cabinet is confronted with systematic weaknesses that need strong political will to fix. Scott Wade reviews this week.
This week, the pieces of the new cabinet were put in place. Ministers sworn in early this month, and the handovers of their offices starting the week before and continuing until Monday. Prime Minister James Marape issued a tall order to the whole of government: make Papua New Guinea great and get the most out of the country's resources. So when Sina Yongumugul MP Kerengakua met with the outgoing Minister Fabian Pock, the discussion centered around how the transition within the Petroleum Ministry was going to happen. The Ministry of Petroleum doesn't get as much attention publicly, but its functions and the high-profile investors do. It is one of the most controversial sectors in terms of landowner royalties, and Kerengakua's task is to put in place policies that work for the people and don't put landowners at a disadvantage.
Going forward into the future, we now have to look at the structure of the Oil and Gas Act.
Another important ministry, key in rehabilitating the national economy, also came under the spotlight this week when William Duma handed over the office keys to Sasindran Mutuvel. Mutuvel also has a list of tasks stacked up against his name. One of them is to develop provinces into microeconomic hubs that generate enough revenue to cause positive change.
And this ministry involves in some of the most basic services and also doing nation-building projects in terms of communication, or in terms of power, or in terms of transport, and various sectors. It cut across many sectors. And of course, the business has to run as business, not as government departments. So, and also, we intend to reduce the political interference until such a time the repeal takes place for KCH Act.
Big ask, not enough time, and Motovel says if he's given total freedom to get the job done, the development of 22 provincial economies should be achievable. In Leh, the health minister got straight down into business. The former health worker and former CEO of Vanimo Hospital signed off late yesterday on documents that establishes the Nawaeb Provincial Health Authority. What's confronting is that they each have 2 years to do all that, face the elections, and hopefully come back to continue the job with the same PM. Another tall order.
Turning overseas now, the Ebola virus is once again spreading through parts of Central Africa. It's the second largest and second deadliest Ebola outbreak ever recorded. The epicenter is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The World Health Organization has recorded more than 2,000 Ebola cases there, with more than 1,400 confirmed in probable deaths.
Dr. Camero Mode enters this exhausting battleground, where a transparent barrier isolates a highly contagious Ebola patient from the outside world. His team rushes to stabilize a young woman who lost her baby and her husband to the virus. The death rate in this outbreak, nearly 70%.
You know, sometimes you forget, even for myself, this is my third Ebola outbreak, the terror that this strikes into people. When people come here, they feel they might die. In fact, they believe there's a good chance they will. But if they're inside there, they'll be able to see the eyes, the emotions, the care of the doctors, and also for the family members coming in, they'll be able to interact with them. They're no longer isolated in the same sense.
They call these new units the Cube. The family can begin to trust us, says Dr. Mode, because they can see with their own eyes that we are caring for their loved ones. Its design, a hard lesson learned from the 2014 West African epidemic, where Ebola killed more than 11,000. This time around, teams are also armed with an effective, if experimental, vaccine. Advances that meant this outbreak was supposed to be different. It wasn't supposed to last this long or kill so many. 10 months later, it is still spreading. For the vaccine to work, the teams need to be able to reach all of this. But this is Eastern Congo, a region racked by decades of violence, where armed groups continue to thrive in a dysfunctional state. So a mistrusting community is understandable.
What's at stake here is whether we can break this transmission or not. If it continues to be interrupted, it's likely that the virus will continue to propagate.
And what would that mean for this region, for global health?
It remains a threat to surrounding provinces. It remains a threat to surrounding countries. So we cannot let it spread.
For the spread to stop, Samuel Mutakwa needs to work, keeping track of those most likely to become infected.
So that's 36.8.
Yeah, 28.
So that's safe.
Yeah, that's safe.
But like so many health workers here, Samuel's been threatened, even beaten up by his terrified neighbors.
Sometimes all the world knows is fear, but they don't look at the individual people.
We need to treat these patients with empathy, he says. We need to treat them like they're a member of the family. In the nearby creche, Ebola survivors now immune to the disease, like Masima, become family to young babies who wait to see if their infected mothers will live or die.
You have a smile on your face. Why do you have a smile on your face?
My smile is the joy of being alive, she says. I beat Ebola. I'm smiling to the God who gave me life. Ebola is a disease that breeds unparalleled fear. Here, at least, hope remains.
Rain finally came to one of India's largest cities on Thursday, but it would take a lot more than just a few showers to end a water crisis affecting millions of people.
This is the most significant rain Chennai has seen since December of last year. So far, it's not much, but it's a welcome change for India's sixth largest city, which has been sweltering through a scorching heatwave and is fast running out of water.
Our day starts at 4 in the morning when we reach this place to get water. We can only take water until 10 a.m, after which it gets very hot. It is a very difficult time for us.
High temperatures combined with prolonged dry weather have left Chennai's water reservoirs virtually empty. These satellite photos showed a dramatic change in just the past few months.
There is an acute water crisis looming now, and for the last month there has been no water supply as bore wells have gone dry and supply is erratic.
Water trucks are now a daily reality for the city's residents, who are forced to queue for hours to fill their buckets.
Between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m, we come here with buckets and just wait and watch. The tanker goes frequently to nearby streets, but on our street it doesn't come often enough. We cannot go to work. We're not able to cook food at home.
Last summer's monsoon season failed to deliver its usual deluge, and this year's monsoon is late. Every year, groundwater wells are running dry faster and faster. Local authorities are being criticised for not doing enough to prepare for the inevitable water shortages.
As far as water management is concerned, the government is doing the maximum. It has undertaken cleaning up of water tanks, lakes and reservoirs, and their deepening.
While today's rain is a promising sign that the monsoon season is on its way, it's only a temporary reprieve. Environmentalists warn the situation in Chennai is just an indication of things to come, as the realities of climate change and more extreme weather events become common.
Coming up next in Chokai Sports, Amelia Cook to lead the Orchids for tomorrow's match against Fiji. Details after the break.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Amelia Cook has been appointed captain of the Osage PNG Orchids for Saturday's inaugural Pacific Test. The Orchids will play Fiji tomorrow in Sydney, Australia.
Amelia became Orchid number 21 when she debuted in the 2017 Rugby League Women's World Cup against England in Sydney. Amelia was a member of the Brisbane Broncos women's team that won the inaugural NRL Women's Premiership in 2018. She has also represented the Australian Jillaroos, Queensland Maroons and the PNG Rugby Sevens team. The PNG Orchid squad is a fairly new team with only 4 players remaining from the inaugural side that played in the Women's World Cup in 2017. Coach Nigel Hukula has named 9 debutants: Shea Yvonne De La Cruz, Jacobet Wake, Catherine Anjo, Lency Alcambane, Roswitha Capo, Elsie Albert, Theresa Ayton, Winnie Stephen and Shelley Jerry in the starting side. The other 4 debutants are Eileen Soni, Lakayla Brown-Niki, Samantha Kuman and Elvina Hetra, who have been named on the extended bench. Coach Nigel Hukula will also name his final 17 an hour before kickoff at 3:40 p.m. tomorrow. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
PNG Kumul's coach Michael Marum has made another change to the starting lineup. Marum has slotted in Bernard Lewis, who joined the team earlier in the week in the centres in place of Brendan Nima.
Brendan Nima has been named as the 18th man while Bernard Lewis moves into the centre position. Lewis was a late call-up to the team after fellow Sydney Roosters teammate Lachlan Lamb was ruled out due to an injury. Bernard is from a mixed parentage of Darwin, Australia. He was part of the Kumul's bigger squad over the past 2 years. The team has been preparing well for this year's clash against a Samoan outfit that is bolstered with NRL experience. Kyle Leibat and Edwin Ipape will be the forefront of the Kumul's attack tomorrow. Leibat and Ipape played together in last year's 2-game series against the English Knights, but most of the calls will be made by captain and experienced hooker James Higiaro. 6 out of the 7 players in the PNG Kumul's backline will be making their debuts this weekend, beginning with Edena Gebi at fullback, Terry Wapi on the wing, Xavier Coates and Bernard Lewis in the centres, and the halves pairing of Kyle Leibat and Edwin Ipape. Junior Rao will play his second Pacific Test on the left wing. James Higiaro will start at hooker while Enoch Maki and Luke Page in prop. Rhys Martin and Nixon Put will be at second row and vice-captain Moses Meninga will be the Kumul's lock forward. Kat Baptist, Zev John, Redley Brower and Stanton Albert will come off the bench with Brendan Nima named as the 18th man. The confirmed 17 will be made known an hour before kickoff on Saturday at Leichhardt Oval in Sydney. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
More previews on the Pacific Test when we come back. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. In surely a first, behind closed doors, All Blacks Ofa Tu'ungafasi has been called on to inspire Tonga's Rugby League team at a special jersey presentation. Meanwhile, the Kiwis have turned to one of their own for inspiration ahead of tomorrow's grudge match against Tonga. Benji Marshall has been given a special honour in what will be an emotional return.
Friendly handshakes, some banter between coaches.
I go through that weekly. It's good in the morning, no matter what.
Hardly what you'd expect ahead of a grudge match. But don't let the smiles fool you. This is war.
You know, they'll obviously be looking to get one back on us. Oh, we're here to win. It's a test match. Yeah, we'll be right in the contest, and it's going to be a terrific game of footy, that's for sure.
And don't forget how awkward it can be, given that these are the two teams which sparked the ongoing debate over player eligibility. New Zealand Rugby League now want to stop players switching so freely.
I just keen to get the thoughts from both coaches on that.
For myself, I'm focused on tomorrow. It quite often gets thrown up that we have 8 former Kiwis, or all of those players played for Tonga before they played for anyone else.
And those 8 Kiwi Tongans certainly sense an epic battle looming. While a number of Kiwis from the past turned up to support the current crop today and were just as shocked as everyone else to see Benji Marshall back and part of plans to lead the side tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think it's pretty special being Benji leading Naka. It's going to be a privilege to back him up and do it with him.
Yeah, Benji's been impressive, and along with Sean, so I've got a lot of experience between those two, so I'm really looking forward to them taking control of the team tomorrow.
That playmaking advantage makes the Kiwis hot favourites to turn the tables, although Tonga are backing Super League import Tuilolo Hare and Cowboys prop turned halfback John Asiata.
We've just got to play to our strengths, and we've certainly shown in the past that we can compete with anybody without the big names in the halves too.
They certainly have. And 2 years later, finally, the rematch is here.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Cloudy with a few showers in Port Moresby, brief showers in Dauru, Kerema and Popondetta, and showers in Alatau. In the Mamasa region, a shower or two right across the region in Lae, Wau, Medang, Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two in Lorengau and showers in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kinbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, brief showers, then morning fog in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabag. Forecast of small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Dauru to Kiwa Island to Kerema to Yule Island to Hood Point, Aroma Coast to Samari Island, with waters of eastern and western Milne Islands, including waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits to Cersei Islands to Long Island, seas of 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters of Samari Island to Cape Bogle to Finschhafen, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and with waters of West New Britain, seas of 2 to 3 meters. Waters of Long Island to Medang to Bogia to Wewak to Aitape to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of New Ireland to New East New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. A look now at the ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea. Seas rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 20 to 34 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 20 to 34 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight to moderate with clockwise winds at 10 to 20 knots.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that's the way it is this Friday, the 21st of June 2019. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team and myself, pleasant viewing. Good night.